Hi guys, welcome to SavvyMoneyShow. Me, host Sean. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just for entertainment purposes only. So, I was asked. Sorry about that. I was asked how to improve their pension, because they keep hearing how Labour's going to do a grab on pensions schemes. I'm the kind of person who is of wait and see what's going to happen before you make any changes to your pension. I've seen a lot of people at the 40% or 45% tax bracket have been putting as much as they can in, because there's rumours that Labour are going to bring in a 30% across the board. Now, for those of you who are in the 20% tax bracket, that is when I would maximise putting in. I did a video before where I did a budget and was able to survive while working on bringing my income down to 12,500, and granted, because of investments and other things I was doing. However, I cut back on things, and that meant I was paying no tax, and everything was going into the pension scheme. Now, these are things that you could do to improve your pension thing, or things that could be costing you when it comes to, if you're in the default fund. Now, it could cost you 15 grand or more a year, because they are known to be low risk. If you're going to create a fund that covers as many people as possible, and if you're recommending it to people, they're going to be as low risk as possible. It's kind of like when I did the video on ETFs. A majority of them are going to be investing in similar things. Partial transfer. A lot of people know about transferring out the pension scheme, but very few know about partial transfer, and they will not tell you. So if there's a crash in the market, or if you feel you can do better than your pension fund, then, and do you want to get the benefit of pension tax relief, then say you want to move your funds while remaining an active member of a scheme and do a partial transfer, and see if your scheme will allow it. The majority of them will, but they will not notify you that they will. If you need advice because you don't know which way to turn, then you can borrow £500 from your pension to get advice. It's called a £500 advice allowance for a qualified advisor. Now, there are ways around paying this. There are times when certain organisations, I recall Hargreaves Lansdown at the time, were giving a free appointment with financial advisor. So if you could find some of these schemes where on sign up, a financial advisor will give you a free appointment, you won't have to pay that. The higher rate tax relief. I had my previous boss who opted out. and of his pension, and he waited until he was eligible for higher rate tax relief to maximise the amount he put in. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad way to go about things, but he's losing all those gains. He lost over 20 years worth of gains. And again, opting out. Some people think, I want the money now, I'm going to opt out. But they never opt back in again. A lot of them think, I'd rather have the money in my pocket and then go out and spend it on things they don't need to. We've all done it. Lost pensions. Now, a lot of the organisations that claim to find your lost pensions, unless you have all their details, they're no good. The best one is the government pension finder, in my opinion. So you don't need to give your data over to anyone. The government already has your data. So, and if you have the name of the scheme, you just have to contact that scheme. Incorrect details, such as changing address. I told you before how I was buying new property, and one of the things after changing bank details I'll be doing is contacting pension provider and changing the address. Death benefit nomination form. Now, I had a previous colleague in a previous job. No, these are jobs I'm no longer at, by the way. He died, and a family member couldn't get, his only sole family member couldn't get access to the fund, his fund or his pension, because he didn't fill out a death benefit nomination form. And it's always down to the pension trustee as to whether or not they release it. And some of these pensions, the death benefit nomination form needs to be filled out yearly. Auto enrolment. Now, because you're auto enrolled, some people think that's enough. They say you should be paying in 10 to 15%. But again, previous colleague of mine was auto enrolled on 4%. And with what the company was paying, it went up to 6 to 8%. Whereas if she had paid another 4% in, the company would have paid another 7.7% in. So she would have been hitting up 15%. But she just didn't bother. Qualifying earnings. Now, it's currently between 6,240 and 50,270. So if you're earning 25,000, that means 18,760 qualifying. Some employers will include or exclude overtime. If you're self-employed, 76% are not paying into a pension because they think they want to grow their business, put as much money as they want into their business, and they don't realise that when it is making money, they're taking it out as income, which is fine, but they're paying tax on that. Once they hit the threshold when they're paying tax, then they should be paying into a pension to lower the tax threshold, because they can claim that back. Not shopping around, they're not checking fees or not checking performance. If your pension fund is underperforming the market or an ETF, then you're better off doing a partial transfer and just putting it into an ETF. So if you're paying 1 or 2% in fees and someone else is charging 0.6% when they give you the same performance, it's 1.4% that you're not gaining. And people are counting on a state pension. And these are all, by the way, from my own experience, people I've spoken to. And one example is there's a guy who's due to retire in a year or two who opted out and has never paid into a pension, into a company pension, because he said, I'll get the state pension. And I said, but that's not enough to live off. And he said, no, but I'll then get pension credits and that will top me up. And I said, but the problem with that is they can take away pension credits. They can increase the age at which you get your pension. Or it could end up going like Australia, where it becomes means tested, which is another thing that they're looking into. Or they could just get rid of it altogether. Drawdown too early. I mean, the maximum is at the moment is 25% or 268,200. And I've said to people before that unless you need the money to pay off a loan, to pay off a mortgage, or you need it for something important, like your kids going to university, unless you're going to do something with that money and you have a plan for that money, leave it there. I would, that way you would compound in the tax wrapper. You don't have to leave it all there, you can take some of it, but make sure if you're not taking the 25% that you ask for a certificate so that at any point you can take the rest of it if you need to. MPAA, when you start taking money, you limit what you can pay into your fund. It goes from 60k down to 10k. That's for a defined contribution scheme. Relying on sorry about that. Relying on a pension. Now, you've heard me before say how I invest and my investments are my pension. I've also invested in a property which I rent out. That's my pension. I pay quite a bit into my pension, but I'm not relying on it. I think people should use the tax wrapper, but they shouldn't rely on it. They should also utilise other tax wrappers, such as a stocks and shares ISA. When they've maximised that, then they should look into alternative forms of investment. I have gone into investing in companies that are not on the stock exchange and gotten 30 to 50% tax relief on them. I've actually educated HMRC experts on how to advise people on them. Junior SIP for a child or a LISA. So when a kid is born, if you want to get them a present, why not set them up with a junior SIP or a LISA? A LISA allows them to buy their first home, or as long as it's under a certain amount, we hope that the Labour government will increase the cap on that, because at the moment it's quite small. But they can also use it to buy a pension scheme. Now, you would think, oh, it's just another one of these things, but you put into it and the government will also fund it as well. Whereas junior SIP, again, you only have to put 4,000 to 8,000 in when they're born to set them up for when they retire, and they can't touch it. I'm not suggesting you put 4,000 in when they're born. I'm suggesting that you start putting 30 quid here when they're born, or 30 quid at Christmas, 30 quid at birthday, and they're not going to know what you're giving them when they're first born. And then ask their parents if that's what you want them to do, and rather than buy them a present. And then by the time they're 10, you have £3,000 in it. Or if you just want to put them into an actual ISA so they can use it for university. But I think putting it into a SIP is a good one for them, but it will be locked away. But that's why I like the ISA, because it gets funded by the government. Government interference is another one to be wary of, because we're seeing now how Labour are looking at ways to change the pension scheme. I have actually contacted a number of MPs to see if I could address Parliament regarding pension scheme and a way they can change the pension scheme which makes it better for the people and more economical for the government and for the taxpayer, while giving a better return for people without having to raise the tax age. Without having to raise their pension age. But they don't seem to want to hear from someone like me. Saving more depending on scheme and age circumstances. Now, ideally, you would save more into your scheme, as much as you can afford. But I've had some people say they're too old for a pension, or they've taken their pension and they can't go back in because it would be on worse terms. But it doesn't matter how old you are, it just means that you have to put more in, and you would still qualify and still get a good pension. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Don't forget to check out links in the description down below. You could pick up a free share worth up to £200, and there's plenty of other free links as well. Don't forget my free Discord. I also have my premium Discord, which is £5 a month, which is less than a cup of Starbucks. And don't forget to hit the like button, comment in box, and subscribe. And thank you to everyone who donated through the Buy Me a Coffee app. I'll see you in the next video.